On a warm spring evening, June 7th, 2014, Derek Broaddus was working alone in the new dream home he and his wife Maria had just purchased a few days earlier. Excited to make the house a welcoming space for their 3 children to grow up in, Derek had taken it upon himself to paint the walls and handle minor repairs in preparation for their eventual move. Needing a break from the paint fumes, Derek stepped outside into the garden for some fresh air and decided to check the mail. He expected the usual bills and junk, but instead found a white envelope addressed to the new owner in thick, distinctive handwriting. As he opened it, an ominous sense of dread crept over him as he read it through. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out. I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Tisk, 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 bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted. Are there more on the way? I asked the woods to bring me young blood, and it looks like they listened. Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. Who am I? There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one. Welcome, my friends. Welcome. Let the party begin. The Watcher. Rattled beyond belief, Derek immediately turned off all the lights in the house, terrified that someone might be watching. He called the Westfield Police Department to report the letter, fearing for his family's safety. Panicked, he rushed back to their current home, just a short distance away. One particular line in the letter stood out. I asked the woods to bring me young blood, and it looks like they listened. The next day, Derek and Maria contacted the previous owners of the house, John and Andrea Woods. The Woods admitted they had received a similar letter from the Watcher about 2 weeks before moving out. However, having lived at 657 Boulevard for over 20 years without incident, they assumed it was a harmless prank and dismissed it, throwing the letter away, never making clear what it said. John and Andrea Woods accompanied Maria to the police station, where they spoke to Detective Leonard Lugo. He advised them to keep the matter private, warning that discussing it with neighbors could alert the potential perpetrator and jeopardize the investigation. As the police began working on the case, the Broaddus family tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy. They regularly visited 657 Boulevard to oversee repairs and renovations while acclimating their children to their future home. But what should have been an exciting new chapter turned into a nightmare. Fear clouded their visits. Derek and Maria were constantly calling out to their children, terrified that even a moment out of sight could spell disaster. During one such visit, they gave a tour of the house to a couple from down the street. The neighbor's casual comment, "It's nice to have some young blood in the neighborhood," left Derek and Maria on edge. What might have been an innocent remark now felt menacing, feeding their growing suspicion of those around them. Their sense of unease deepened, isolating them further and amplifying their fears about the Watcher's presence. 2 weeks later, Maria returned to 657 Boulevard to check on paint samples and pick up the mail. Although the family had not yet moved in, a decision increasingly looking permanent, Maria found another familiar white envelope in the stack of letters. This time, the blocky handwriting addressed the family by name, though misspelled as Braddis. "Welcome again to your new home at 657 Boulevard," the watcher wrote. The second letter was even more unsettling. It included intimate details about their family, their children's birth order, names, and nicknames. "I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me," it said. "You certainly say their names often." The Broaddus family realized they had been watched closely during their visits, likely overheard calling out to their children. The misspelling of their names suggested that the information was gathered through eavesdropping rather than research, adding another layer of unease to the situation. The watcher asked about one child in particular, whom he had seen using an easel inside an enclosed porch. "Is she the artist in the family?" 657 Boulevard is anxious for you to move in," the watcher wrote. "It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement, or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream." He continued, "Will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better." The letter ended ominously. "Have a happy moving in day. You know I will be watching." This second letter solidified their decision to never move in. The idea of exposing their children and private lives to such a menacing presence turned their dream home into a nightmare. What was once a symbol of hope and a bright future had become a house of horrors, an unbearable and inescapable threat to their family's safety. Despite the Broaddus family's efforts to distance themselves from the house, a third letter from the watcher arrived at 657 Boulevard. Written in a possessive and unsettling tone, the letter began with the question, "Where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard is missing you." This implied that the family was still under surveillance, their absence from the house noted by their stalker. The watcher expressed anger over the ongoing renovations, accusing the Broaddus family of stealing its history and making the house too fancy. The letter continued to reveal the watcher's disturbing obsession with young blood. Nostalgically, they wrote about the 1960s. "The 1960s were a good time for 657 Boulevard when I ran from room to room imagining life with the rich occupants there. The house was full of life and young blood." The watcher lamented the aging of both the house and their father, who, they claimed, had also watched over 657 Boulevard. "Then it got old, and so did my father, but he kept watching until the day he died, and now I watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again." This eerie fixation on children, clearly referencing the Broaddus children, added to the family's unease. The watcher's tone grew increasingly unstable, stating that 657 Boulevard was now turning on them and becoming an enemy. This ominous declaration hinted at a potential mental unraveling, leaving Derek and Maria deeply fearful about what actions the watcher might take to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. Haunted by the third letter and overwhelmed by fear, Derek and Maria decided to sell 657 Boulevard. They initially listed it for more than they had paid, hoping to recoup some of the money spent on renovations. However, news of the strange letters had spread throughout the community. Potential buyers, upon learning about the watcher, were scared off, leaving the family with no offers and a growing financial burden. Desperate for a way out, the Broaddus family considered selling the property to a developer who could demolish the house and construct 2 smaller homes on the lot. This plan required special approval from the town's planning board, as the proposed lots would be slightly smaller than local zoning regulations permitted. This decision sparked a heated confrontation with their neighbors, thrusting the family into yet another battle. When the Broaddus family brought their proposal, many neighbors showed up to oppose it. They argued that dividing the property into two smaller lots, each just under the required 70-foot width, would ruin the aesthetic of the neighborhood. The town meeting dragged on for hours, growing increasingly tense as neighbors voiced their objections. Despite the family's ordeal, many residents appeared more concerned with property values than with their safety. Ultimately, the planning board unanimously rejected the proposal, leaving Derek and Maria feeling abandoned by their community. With no resolution in sight, the family was stuck once again, unable to live in the house due to the threat of the Watcher, yet unable to sell it because of the growing notoriety of their nightmare. As the Broaddus family dealt with the unsettling letters from the Watcher, their focus, and that of the police, turned to their next-door neighbors, the Langfords. Several factors fueled this suspicion. The Langford family had lived in the neighborhood since the 1960s, aligning with the Watcher's claims of a long-standing connection to 657 Boulevard. Additionally, Michael Langford, one of the younger members of the family, was known for peculiar behavior, such as wandering through neighbors' yards and peering into windows. This unsettling conduct, combined with the Langfords' proximity to the Broaddus home, suggested a potential means by which the Watcher might have gathered intimate details about the family. For instance, the Watcher referenced the children playing in the backyard and their daughter painting on an easel on the enclosed porch, a location largely hidden from the street. This level of detail implied the observer had to be close, perhaps even on the Langfords' property. When questioned by police, Michael Langford denied any involvement. However, Detective Lugo, who interviewed Michael, reportedly noted inconsistencies in his statements that seemed to align with information from the letters. As the investigation progressed, police conducted a DNA analysis on one of the envelopes, which revealed traces of female saliva. This discovery shifted the focus away from Michael and toward his sister, Abby Langford, a real estate agent. Investigators speculated that Abby might have had a financial motive, perhaps upset about losing a commission on the sale of the Broaddus home. She was also among the most vocal neighbors present at the planning board meeting, expressing her dismay at the idea of her view of the magnificent house being replaced by a driveway. However, after obtaining a DNA sample from Abby, the results did not match, effectively clearing her of suspicion. Despite this evidence, the prosecutor's office ultimately ruled out the entire Langford family as suspects without providing a clear explanation. Meanwhile, news of the letters and the stalled police effort spread, drawing media attention. Excerpts of the Watcher's messages were published, intensifying public scrutiny and adding another layer of stress for the already anxious family. As the investigation continued, a new lead captured the Westfield police's attention. One night during surveillance of 657 Boulevard, detectives observed a car parked outside the house for an extended period. The vehicle was traced to a young woman whose boyfriend lived 2 blocks away. When questioned, the woman revealed that her boyfriend played dark video games. One investigator recalled that the boyfriend might have played a game involving a character called the Watcher. Intrigued by this potential link, police attempted to interview the boyfriend. However, he failed to show up for 2 scheduled meetings, raising suspicions. Without further evidence and his refusal to cooperate, authorities could not pursue the lead. It was later speculated that the Watcher might have been a misunderstanding of The Witcher, a popular video game. This mix-up, paired with a lack of concrete evidence, left the gamer theory unresolved. In 2017, desperate to move forward, the Broaddus family found tenants willing to rent 657 Boulevard. The new renters, a family with older children and large dogs, insisted on a clause allowing them to break the lease if another letter from the Watcher appeared. Just 2 weeks later, a new letter arrived. This time, the message directly threatened Derek and Maria, mocking their attempts to expose the Watcher. "You wonder who the Watcher is? Turn around, idiots." The letter also taunted their failed effort to demolish the house. 657 Boulevard survived your attempted assault and stood strong with its army of supporters barricading its gates. The letter listed disturbing potential misfortunes for the family, including car accidents, fires, illnesses, and even death. Despite the escalation, the Renners chose to stay, opting for increased security measures. For the Broaddus family, however, the letter was the breaking point. In 2019, they sold 657 Boulevard for $959,000, a significant loss from the $1.3 million they had originally paid. The sale of 657 Boulevard marked the end of a harrowing chapter for the Broaddus family, but the ordeal left a lasting impact. Years of relentless harassment and the loss of their dream home took a toll on their finances, relationships, and mental health. The stress and anger Derek endured even led him to send anonymous letters to neighbors who had criticized their family, a behavior he later admitted with regret. Though the new owners of 657 Boulevard have not reported receiving further letters, the mystery of the Watcher remains unsolved. For the Broaddus family, the experience serves as a chilling reminder that darkness can lurk even in seemingly idyllic communities. Now living on the other side of Westfield, the family clings to the hope of a fresh start, free from the shadows of 657 Boulevard. If you enjoyed this chilling story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more mysteries, true crime, and strange tales. And if you're ready for your next dose of intrigue, click on the video appearing on your screen right now. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.